Hello everyone, it's me, Walter the Germany Ball, back here with yet another top 20 video, this time talking about my 20 favorite films of all time, yes. And they're not movies, you see, they're films, they're cinema, they're kino, if you will. No, I'm just kidding. These are movies. Some of these, a lot of people would be like, ugh, how do you even like that, Walter? But listen, if they're fun, if they're good, if they tell a good story, then they're fun, they're good, and they tell a good story, and there's nothing else I should have to say about them. So if you think that, oh, you have so many horror movies on your 20 favorite list, you must just love blood and guts. You can just get out right now because, listen, the truth is, I love a movie that has a good story, good acting, good characters, good cinematography, good action, good suspense, good horror, anything that it's trying to do, convey emotions, if it can make me feel something, if it can make me laugh, if it can make me cry, if it can make me go, oh my god, if it can make me go, like one of the movies on this list did, then that was a pretty successful movie. And these are the best of the best. So I want to start off with a movie that I recently watched and that you've probably heard of, John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, I love John Carpenter, and I'd say if I had to meet one director, it'd probably be him because his film Halloween is, well, as you can tell, one of my favorites, and we'll get there soon enough. And I also watched Big Trouble in Little China many, many years ago and have loved that movie ever since. I thought it was really funny and cute. But The Thing I watched this year for the first time, and let me just say, there are two reasons this movie is so good. If these weren't there, I would say, who even cares? It'd be another generic sci-fi movie. But the isolated winter atmosphere is perfection. John Carpenter knows his atmosphere. This is why he loves Horizon Forbidden West and Churches, because he's a man of taste. In Halloween, the fall atmosphere is perfection. And in this, it's pretty much the winter equivalent to that, in my opinion. It gives off the isolated feeling of winter, but distorts it from something cozy where you bundle up inside and get your hot cocoa and watch the TV. No. There is something among you. There is something among us that isn't human. And it's quite terrifying to know that it could be anything. It could take any shape, any form, and you'll never know if you've killed it or not. And they do a really good job with that, especially in the ending. The ending is just, if isolation was shown in one scene, it would be the ending of The Thing. Let me tell you, that is the perfect culmination of what it feels like to be alone and closed off from the rest of society. And the special effects are the greatest in cinema history that I've ever seen. No contest. The Thing will blow your goddamn mind. It did mine, and I had already seen some of the parts of this movie. Let me tell you, you are not prepared for what they do. Just the first scene where you see the Thing transform is incredible. Highly recommend this movie. No, it's not the one from 2011, and no, it's not the one from the 50s, the one from the 80s. Watch it. It's really, really good. And with a much different tone at number 19, I have Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Now, yeah, you might be wondering, why isn't it Holy Grail or Life of Brian? Well, I've never seen Life of Brian, and I do really love Holy Grail, but if there's one I've watched a lot, it's Meaning of Life. And Meaning of Life has a pretty unfunny opening, but after that it is smooth sailing through the craziest stuff you'll ever see. It makes no sense sometimes, but yet it's still so funny. My favorite part of the movie, they cut to like a college, I think, and there's a talking elephant and a man cross-dressing and someone with faucets for nipples, I think, and they're talking about where they went, the fish, and they go, fishy, 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 fish, where did it go? That's my best impression, and It's genius. It's a comedy masterpiece. If you haven't seen this movie and you like kind of weird humor but still clever humor, you gotta watch this movie, man. It's hilarious. It pokes jabs at so many, things about society sometimes, but it's also just out there and absurd in the best ways without being annoying and stupid, except for the opening, which you can just skip. Skip the part with the pirates. The rest, though, masterpiece of comedy. And at number 18, I have another masterpiece of comedy. History of the World, Part 1, the best Mel Brooks movie I've ever seen. I've watched this one so many times as well, and I can't really tell anything. I don't want to give anything away, but let me just say the French Revolution part is some of the funniest historical satire ever conceived. You have got to see this movie if you like historical satire, if you like satire of any kind, if you've seen Spaceballs and you like that, if you've seen Young Frankenstein and you like that, or any other Mel Brooks movie, then this is like his magnum opus, in my opinion at least, of the ones I have seen. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a lot, and this is the best one. So if you like any of his movies, if you like that kind of humor at all, definitely check it out. And even if you don't know if you'll like it or not, I recommend giving it a watch because it is so, so funny. Now back into horror. At number 17, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Where do I even begin with this movie? Okay, so it is a critique of meat eating, which I don't agree with because, I'm gonna eat chicken every day and I'm gonna like it, and anyone who's watching that's vegan, I'm sorry, but I love eating chicken. There's nothing you can do about it. Listen, but the way this movie critiques meat eating, and specifically the way we handle animals, is genius. Because the way we handle animals is horrific and needs to be put to an end. And this movie just perfectly portrays that by saying, well, what if humans were treated like this? And not in some, pretentious, cosmic, sort of ridiculous fashion. Oh, they get put into a farm or a slaughterhouse or some ridiculous nonsense like that. No. It is a visceral, realistic depiction of murderers and a set of murderers who do see these people as animals, as prey, as food, as resources. And it really does make you think, Jesus, is this what I'm doing to animals? Is this what I'm letting happen to the animals that I then eat? So it does make you wonder, even if you're so set on not being a vegan or a vegetarian, you might be like, uh-oh. Because Tobe Hooper does an amazing job. The camera work is so raw and it feels cheap, but it's not. This is not a cheap movie. This is art. This is genius. And a lot of people, when they hear the title, they hear Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they think it's disgusting. And I thought that too. We're going into this, I'm like, I'm gonna try it because everyone says it's so good, but I didn't want a bunch of gore. I can handle a bunch of blood and guts and stuff, but I don't like it because that's not like deep. It's not interesting. It's not thought out. It's just gross. If it's creative and some grotesque creation like The Thing, that is legitimate creativity. It's thought. It's an idea. But just showing someone getting horrifically mutilated is not creative, not interesting, and not well done. But this movie doesn't do that at all. This movie shows very little gore. It's the subject matter that's so disturbing, and it got to the point that I was kind of freaked out for one night after I watched it, which, holy crap, that's the only time that's ever happened when watching a movie. So, bravo, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're technically the only movie I've ever watched that kind of scared me after watching it. So, that's an impressive feat in and of itself. And especially the last dinner scene and the finale is perfect. When I watched this movie for the first time and I got done, I was like, that was pretty great. But then I thought more and more about that last scene, and I knew this is a masterpiece. And it really is. And at number 16, we have another great intellectual horror movie called The Babadook. This movie does a great job of also making you question perspective, because you hate the little kid for most of the movie, but by the end, he sort of becomes the one you sympathize with. It does a fantastic job of exploring the mother and son and their characters, and it's really more of a family drama than a horror movie. And I'm going to be saying this about another movie that's coming up, and trust me, I don't watch drama movies for fun that often. So I get it. If you're a real horror fan like me and you're like, I don't want to watch that. No, trust me, you do. It has everything you love about horror. It is creepy. There is a scene in here that I was like, oh my god, I was kind of on the edge of my seat. It doesn't try to be that scary, but that feeling of insomnia, of not being able to sleep, of never catching a break, that goes through the screen. From the mother to the audience, that comes through the screen, and it's highly effective at creating some paranoia, some tension, and just some feelings of hopelessness. Fantastic movie, and the performance of the mother is one of the greatest horror performances ever. At number 15, I have Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, okay, I know I'm not supposed to talk about Star Wars according to all the people who hate me, but listen, buddy, okay? What more is there to say? This is an amazing film. It has courage. That's what I can really say about it. This is all I want to say about Empire Strikes Back that makes me love it so much, is it has courage. It doesn't pull any punches. Oh, we're gonna keep this guy alive. Oh, we're gonna, happy ending. No. It doesn't pull any of that nonsense, and I hate that, because in modern movies it's always, oh, we gotta have a happy ending. Oh, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, so it's not sad. That is the literal opposite. That's the antithesis of art. Art is about making you feel something, about conveying emotions, themes, ideas. And so when a movie like Empire Strikes Back comes along and is like, no, we're gonna show you the truth and you're gonna like it, even though it is pretty dark, that's amazing, and I love that. And that is one of the big reasons, among the many other reasons, that everyone else on planet Earth will tell you why it's one of my favorite movies. And number 14, we have my favorite comedy ever, Step Brothers. Now, before you click off the video because you're a Rotten Tomatoes critic and you think this is the spawn of Satan or something, let me tell you. Prestige worldwide, and every other joke in this movie is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I quote this movie probably more than anything else. The only thing that I quote as much as this movie is I think you should leave. I'm pretty sure. The effing Catalina wine mixer specifically is so genius. You just watch it. Just watch it, have a good time, get some popcorn, and laugh your butt off. That's the kind of movie this is, and it is fantastically written to be just the funniest thing you've ever watched. The man children are so effectively stupid without ever being annoying. And just thinking about some of the scenes, as you can see, is making me crack up. Watch it. It's amazing. At number 13, I have Aliens. Now, I've reviewed this movie, and, yeah, it's really good. It's really effective, well shot, well acted, good twists and turns, good horror, good suspense, good action. It's just all around one of the best movies from the 80s, in my opinion. Then we got a classic that really, really redefines the term classic. Because when a lot of people say, oh, this is such a classic movie, they're usually talking about the 80s, sometimes about the 60s or 50s, but they're never talking about the 1920s. And that's what I'm talking about right now, is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, one of the most ingeniously crafted films, with how it's shot, with how the design is. It's all purposefully made to make it look like a dream of some crazy person's delusion, and that's exactly what it is. The story is told in a unique way that really didn't exist at the time, and it paved the way forward for an unreliable narrator in film, for such wild creative set design, and it's probably the finest example of German expressionism in cinema that I can think of. Totally recommended. Even if you're not a horror fan, you can handle it. It's not scary, it's just a damn good movie. At number 11, we got something that I think a lot of people might get mad about. If they know what this movie is, they might be thinking, how could you possibly put that up there with, Star Wars and aliens. Let me tell you, buddy, Fear Street 3 1666 is as good as it gets on Netflix. Because Jesus Christ, the whole Fear Street trilogy, and I reviewed those, so watch my review of that, is amazing. The acting is very effective for what it's going for. The characters are some of the best in horror that I've seen in recent years, at least. The characters are really rarely dumb, and you feel for them. When one of them dies, when misfortune befalls them, you feel something. You feel connected to them. So that makes the scary scenes a lot more tense, and it makes the emotional scenes pack a punch. The soundtracks are good. In the first one, they overuse 90s songs a lot, but the second one and the third one are masterpieces. But I have to go with the third one because of the disturbing and ingeniously crafted 1666 sets. Now, listen. This is a hot take. I'm not a fan of the movie The Witch. And if you want to see a movie that I think does that kind of era and horror in that kind of era right, watch Fear Street 1666. I think it was much better, much more focused, much more direct. Maybe the set design wasn't the most impressively historically accurate thing I've ever seen, and I will give The Witch credit for that. But let me just tell you, it uses that period so well, and I never really care about period piece movies. I think they're kind of boring, but this is a fantastic horror movie, great characters, looks beautiful, all around, can't recommend it enough. And at number 10, we have a movie that may be considered not cinema by some, but Avengers Endgame is, in my opinion, the finest you can see from the MCU. There are a lot of debates if Infinity War or Endgame is better, and, Infinity War has things that I like more. It definitely could go either way, but I have to pick Endgame because I think it's such a perfect final chapter. It's not, for some ungodly reason, the final chapter of the MCU, but if it was, it would be like an amazing film franchise that ended on a very, very high note. Everything comes together. It's amazing. It's the reactions in the theaters to the final battle were something that I don't think I'll ever experience ever again, especially now that theaters are kind of dying out, at least in my opinion. I don't really go see movies in the theaters that much anymore, and I don't really want to see the new Marvel movies that much. Endgame was the perfect culmination of everything over 10 years, and just the way everyone responded to it in the theaters, that will never, ever, ever come again, I don't think. I don't think anyone could ever achieve that again. Except, of course, me, but, we'll have to see. We'll have to see where that goes. At number 9, we have another comic book movie, but a much, much different one, Joker. This movie is bleak. It is just tough. It has so many just heart-wrenching, wretched twists and turns, but it's all brilliantly crafted. Looks great, music's good. Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, just how even are you this good of an actor? Joaquin Phoenix blows my mind in this movie. He's not as good as Heath Ledger, maybe, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know, it could go either way. Heath Ledger is much more intimidating, but Joaquin Phoenix is like the most sympathetic Joker by far. I feel so bad for him, and it tells an intelligent story about classism, about how our economy works and what it can bring. We often like to criticize people like the Joker, but we forget that our society and the way it functions creates people like that. It's very unfortunate, and we have to look at ourselves as a group, as a society, and wonder, are we doing the right thing? We're not, in my opinion. And I think Joker is just a genius in terms of social commentary with great acting. It's everything you could want from a Joker movie, in my opinion. And the only thing I would say is if you can't handle anything dark or depressing, maybe don't watch it. But for me, this is like The Last of Us 2 of movies in terms of how bleak the story is, and I love that. I don't want to sound like a psychopath. I don't love it when something is horrible and depressing in real life, But when a movie can make me feel something, when it conveys those emotions, that is incredible, and Joker does that very well. At number 8, we have one of my all-time favorite horror movies, Creep. A simple movie, and you should just watch my review. But it's a very simple movie, but it's so effective. Even I showed it to friends of mine who aren't even horror fans, some of them, and they loved it too. So that's a sign. I think even if you're not a horror fan, this movie is really not that scary, but it is effective. It builds tension. There are some creepy as hell scenes, but it's not like overly in your face terrifying. Mark Duplass, though, is the single greatest portrayal of a serial killer in all of cinema that I've ever seen, at least. And yeah, it was made basically by two guys. So that alone makes me love it so much because it inspires me. It makes me I really do believe, and partially because of this movie, that I can make an amazing film even though I have very few resources. And I think it is an inspiration to so many indie filmmakers out there. And for that, I respect it and love it so much. And maybe it's not the most perfect movie ever made, but it is inspirational. It is very effective. There's really not that much that I can pick apart with it. So it's a simple but great movie. Short but sweet. That's how I'd put it. Oh God, at number 7 we have Nomadland. If there's one movie that's made me cry a lot, it's Nomadland. Still watching the last scene of this movie just out of context on YouTube, it hurts, man. And let me give you the context. I watched this movie while I was on a plane moving to the UK. So basically, what I had known for many years, everything I had known for so many years, leaving that all behind and moving to a brand new country where I didn't live before, um, and just leaving friends behind, leaving everything I was accustomed to behind. And then I watched this movie, which is basically about that and about leaving people and things behind, and it hurt me so hard. I watched it on the plane, and I was just crying and crying and crying on the plane. And I don't think I've ever done that on a plane. Not a lot of movies do make me cry, but this one did. I was worried someone would see me and be like, "Are you okay?" But thankfully, I was, kind of closed off. There weren't that many people around me on the flight, so thankfully, no one could tell I was crying at it. But Jesus, it hurt, and it hurts today with everything that I've experienced and gone through. Connecting back to this movie, it's a genius film, and it's truly one of the best that I've ever seen because Frances McDormand does an amazing job, but really what's so impressive is that no one else is an actor. And their stories and their experiences, it's real, or it's at least very heavily based on reality. So when I realized that the final scene where one of the characters talks about his son who committed suicide, when I realized that was real, I was just I couldn't handle that. I was so emotionally just I didn't know what to feel. I felt sad. I felt impressed because of the film. But it's a film that will punch you in the gut, but while looking you in the eyes and telling you it loves you because it is important to experience the pain that this movie can provide emotionally based on the experiences that you have to witness that are not easy to witness. Um, but once you have gone through that, it is like an emotional cure. It's like taking a shot. It's like taking a shot at the doctors. It might be painful when they poke it in and you might be nervous, but once you have it, it helps you. And it has helped me and I think back to it and it provides clarity on how we should handle the past and the future. And I just love Nomadland. I do have to review it someday for sure, but I don't even know where to begin because with a movie that good, it's a little daunting to review it, I must say. At number 6, we have Inception, another movie I gotta review, and yeah, this one, mind-boggling visuals, great acting, a little hard to understand, but once you do, it all comes together so well, and it's visionary. That's what I can say. Christopher Nolan has envisioned such a unique, creative film with interesting mechanics. It's fantastic. Just watch Inception and try to understand it. And yeah, one day I will review it. Oh boy, number 5, Hereditary. I've been waiting to talk about this one. If you haven't seen Hereditary and you're a horror fan, what are you even doing? This is one of the greatest horror masterpieces ever created. And I know it's elevated horror, and I don't like getting into that. I don't want to watch a movie where some pretentious a-hole is like, oh, well, all these horror movies are not good enough for me, so I'm going to make a film that all the Rotten Tomatoes critics love. No. I hate that, okay? And I don't want to. I often don't agree with the critics, but on this one, 100% I do. This is a masterpiece. It is such an ingenious story. There's so much to unpack and understand and analyze, but it's not, confusing. Like, let me put it like this. There's a scale of how effective a story with so many different themes is in a horror movie. I would say here you have The Witch, where it has a lot of themes, but they all just kind of go nowhere, in my opinion. Like there were just parts of that movie where it was just like, oh, that was a thing, but it didn't feel connected to the rest. It just felt like a little vignette. And then I guess I'd put Halloween Kills in there too, because that does the same damn thing. And then you have It Follows kind of in the middle, where there were things that were portrayed very well, and there were others where I was just kind of like, okay, what was that? Like, the ending was weird. Still a great movie, though. And then you have The Babadook and Hereditary. Yes, these two know what they're doing with the themes and the deep, depressing things they explore. But Hereditary makes The Babadook look like a damn Disney movie. I mean, Jesus Christ, this movie is horrific, but in the greatest ways possible. And there's one moment early in the film, I'm not going to spoil it because if I do, I'm ruining the movie for so many people, that after I watched it, I just went, literally, that's what I did. No exaggeration. Because it blew my goddamn mind. And I know I'm going crazy, but this is how I feel. I love this movie. And it's a work of art. It's a genius masterpiece. Hereditary has pretty interesting visual style, but what heightens it is, one, the acting. The acting from everyone is so good. Except from Peter, he does an amazing job. But Toni Collette, come on. Best horror performance of all time as the mother, going from so depressed to so depraved, and just this experience, this wild experience that just puts you in a deep, dark place and then shines a light on it like you're supposed to love it, creates a twisted, disturbing thing where you're supposed to revel in and love and, bask in the glory of something horrific and dark and evil. That is what is so insidious about this film, is there are things about it, but eventually it gets to a point where the threat of the film treats these horrific things like they're positives. And it's such a disconnect with our inner humanity that you have to wonder what the hell is going on, and it gets to you because it's so non-human in such an effective way. And it makes you wonder, like, the past of your family and everything. It gets into so many things, but they're all done perfectly. But in general, it's just a movie with so many great moments that I will never forget. If you like horror, if you can handle horror at all, watch this movie. Even if you think you might not be able to, I know it's probably the most disturbing movie I've ever watched, but god damn it, you gotta watch it anyway, because it's so good, and it might freak you out, but I think that's all worth it in the end. Kind of like Nomadland making you cry, this one will disturb you and maybe scare you, but in the end, it's gonna stick with you as a genius piece of art. At number 4, though, I have my second favorite horror movie ever. Sinister. Now, Sinister might not be the most layered, genius thing I've ever seen, like Hereditary probably is, but come on. Sinister is the movie for me. The atmosphere, the soundtrack, the visuals, it creates such a great feeling. And the whole thing of him discovering those tapes and digging deeper and deeper, I love it. I love it so much. I think it's such a great concept. I made a review of that, and I can't really describe it off the top of my head, so just watch my scripted review and you'll understand why I love this movie so much. But yeah, worth seeing, to put it lightly. At number 3, I have the best movie I've seen all year that came out this year in 2022. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I want to review this movie eventually, so I don't want to say too much, and it's hard to describe it, but I will leave you with one thing that I think perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this movie. So, for the first 30 minutes, I was very confused. I was like, this is the most weird, confusing, bizarre movie I've ever seen. And then, after the credits rolled, I went, holy crap, watching that movie made me understand the truths of the universe and the meaning of life. This movie is something that shouldn't exist. We as a species are not advanced enough to understand its genius. It literally solves every issue that it makes all the philosophers in history look like complete morons because it's just like, oh yeah, you want to know the meaning of life? Well, here it is. And I can't tell you what it is because you just have to experience it. I know I sound pretentious right now, but it's a movie that transcends all of us. Like, I don't know how they goddamn made it. But it's I'm speechless. Just watch the movie. It's a hyper masterpiece. At number 2, I have The Dark Knight. Come on, baby, the best superhero movie ever made. You got Heath Ledger's Joker. You got the Harvey Dent adaptation, which I thought was fantastic. You have brilliant visuals, incredible action scenes, high stakes where you really care. The only thing that sucks is the girl Rachel, I think, but she's not that big of an issue. And in the face of everything else about this movie, she doesn't even exist. This movie is just awesome. If you like superhero movies, if you like action movies, if you like Batman and you haven't seen this movie, this is like the Batman experience. It's better than Arkham City, in my opinion, okay? Okay, for best Batman experiences I've ever seen, you got Dark Knight, and then Arkham City, probably, the game. But for movies, this is definitely number 1. No matter how you slice it. Some people claim The Batman is better, and I do love that movie. I really, really enjoyed it. But, no. The Dark Knight is just on a whole nother level, and Christopher Nolan, even though I don't love every movie he's made, he is a very, very effective director, and this is one of his finest works that I've seen. So, wholly recommend this. And number 1, my favorite movie of all time is... Oh, I wonder what it is. No, it's Halloween. Come on, baby, Halloween! I'm wearing the shirt, guys. I'm wearing the shirt. And I made an hour and 17-minute long video about the whole franchise, but I made a review of the original in that video. So you don't have to watch the whole video, but I'd recommend watching my review of the first one at least. It's only like 8 minutes or something. But, oh, come on, it's such a good movie. And it might not be as genius as Everything Everywhere All at Once. It might not be as deep as Hereditary. It might not be as creepy and unsettling as Sinister, and it might not be as kick butt and awesome as The Dark Knight. But of all the movies that have influenced me and what I strive to create and what I love, Halloween is number 1. I have forever been changed by this movie. I love it. I love everything about it. I could watch it to the day I die. It's the Spyro of movies for me, where it might not be the best I've ever seen, like in a little more of an objective sense, but on a very, very deeply personal level, it made a connection with me that no other movie has, and I love it unconditionally. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Comment down below, what are some of your favorite movies? What did you think of my list? And yeah, have a great rest of your year, everyone. I'll see you with the TGB's live stream. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. Be safe, everyone, and goodbye.